is going on, everybody? Welcome back to DSM Pregame Live Sixers Raptors preview, streaming to you exclusively on DSM Media's YouTube channel. Guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you check us out on Twitter first at DSM_media. Hit that follow button. We greatly appreciate it. And while you're over on the page, make sure to check out the link tree. It's in our bio. It'll take you to every social media platform we are available on. If you guys want to be interactive throughout tonight's show or catch any of these DSM pregame lives, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications on the YouTube channel specifically. It's the best place to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up with us and be interactive. I am one half of your host, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter at DylanJD98. To my right, my co-host, Scotty. You can find him as well on Twitter at Scotty Drown. My man, the Sixers coming off of a big-time win back at home at the Wells Fargo Center against Kyrie and Luka and the rest of the Dallas Mavericks. Finally back in the win column with only just about a week to go in this NBA season, a little over a week to go. How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good, man. We got baseball season back, so we got sports every day, which is really how I like it. Honestly, I like it when we got something to root for every day. Something to get invested in. So I'm happy to see the Phillies back, but we're getting right into the heat and the meat of the NBA season. This is where everything turns real. I did my pod earlier. Scotty Talks NBA talked about, kind of how the playoffs are already starting in a sense when you talk about seeding, trying to avoid certain matchups. So all of these games are going to be pretty important down the stretch, even for the Sixers, who are at the 3rd seed right now. They're only a few games up on the Cavs. It would take a colossal meltdown to lose the 3rd seed, but nothing out of the realms of reality or possibilities. So I'm excited, man. We're getting into that time of year where we're going to get the best performances every single night they step on the court when you're talking about the star players in the league. So I'm excited about that, man.
Regular seasons have become more and more dried down. I feel across all sports, across all leagues, but none more so than the NBA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is the time where it just means more to these guys. And like you said, they are gearing up for that playoff atmosphere. And these games, these opponents and tests the Sixers have coming up are going to be playoff atmosphere-esque games with the Bucks and the Celtics
Raptors
and whoever else. And Toronto tonight, who was their first round opponent, as you said, last year, man. But yeah, I'm excited about this one. And you mentioned one thing about the Sixers. It's not out of the realm of possibility for them to drop to the 4 seed with the Cavs. The biggest thing is Joel Embiid and James Harden are not on the injury report for tonight. That is not saying that both or one will not miss another game or two down the stretch, but they are not missing tonight. And when those two are on the floor, specifically at home against the 500 Raptors squad tonight, which we're going to break down that game, you feel confident in their ability to get another win and separate themselves from the 4-seeded Cleveland Cavaliers. Before we get into tonight's game, got to look back on the Mavs game, man. Big win, as I said. What stood out to you most in this one? What was your biggest positive?
I think I have to go with the other guys in this one. And, what I mean by that, and I think it's obvious, Embiid only had 25 points in this game. I say only. 25 is a nice night for normal NBA players. But when you're talking about an MVP candidate that leads the league in scoring, 25 points is not a typical night from Embiid, right? And he was coming back from taking a game off, coming back from having that calf injury. So a little bit of a filling out process for him. I think he got into a little bit of foul trouble at some point in that game as well. Nonetheless, the other guys stepped up. I don't know if you win this game without what George Niang and D'Anthony Melton did specifically in the first half, but they continued it into the second half. But that's just knocking down shots, and it's crazy. D'Anthony Melton, we called him out on the last show saying, he's been in a little bit of a slump. Then he comes out and he has a game where he goes 5 for 6 from the 3-point line. So it's crazy how up and down D'Anthony Melton can be. But I think there's one thing to call out with D'Anthony Melton. He's just much, much better off the bench. He plays more confidently. He shoots the ball more confidently. And I would go as far as to say, in those games where Harden, and you won't have a bunch of them, hopefully, the rest of this season, in those games where Harden sits out, it's like Melton should still just come off the bench. Make Shake that guy that you elevate to the starting lineup, and then let Melton, even if he's the first guy off the bench in that case. But nonetheless, him, Niang, of course, Harden did his thing aside from the shooting woes. Maxey continues to have his hot shooting from the 3-point line. Overall, just a really good team win against the Mavs team that they haven't been playing great, but they're playing for everything right now.
Right.
They're trying to make the playoffs. There's nowhere else to go for the Mavs, right? There's not going to be a more desperate team you're going to run into. So I was impressed with the win overall. It was a little bit of a sloppy start, but nonetheless came out with the W.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. You mentioned the other guys, and I'm going to add one name on there. I'll add two. Jalen McDaniels was good as well in 15 minutes played. He was a plus 15 off the bench for the 76ers. He shot 1 of 4 from the field, 1 of 2 from the 3-point line. So he did not light up the box score in terms of points. However, he did some other stuff. 2 rebounds, got an assist, was good on defense, had a stupid penalty at the end of the third quarter. But outside of that, he was good. And then Paul Reed, man, he was a -2 off the bench, whatever. He had 5 points, 5 rebounds, an assist, a steal, a block. I think Doc Rivers is tired of the experiments, which is crazy to say. We're normally tired of the Doc Rivers experience at this point of the season and his rotation. You look at last game, Dwayne Dedmon went from starting right on the road in where is that? Oh, Denver. To being a DNP coach's decision. Montrezl Harrell, DNP coach's decision. Shake Milton, who has struggled as of late, DNP coach's decision. The game was nationally televised.
I didn't even notice that Shake didn't step on the court. That's funny, man. I didn't even notice that off the top of my head, but yeah, that's crazy.
Later tip, it felt like a playoff atmosphere. The crowd, the game, the back and forth, the star power, the bright lights. And you look at who he ran out on the floor. Are you kind of seeing what this playoff rotation is going to look like?
I think you honestly are. When you read out everybody that played in this game, it actually makes sense. Shake is going to be that one guy that maybe if Harden and Melton get in foul trouble, something like that, maybe he'll step on the court in the postseason, but he's not going to see the court that much. You just can't afford to have Harden, Maxey, or Melton off the floor, that long in a postseason game for Shake Milton. So that makes sense. Daniel House. Did we see Daniel House in this game? Let me see here.
He's a 0. He has 0 minutes locked, but he was not a DNP. I'm pretty sure we saw Daniel House for like 22 seconds.
Thought I saw him at the end of a quarter or something,
or whatever, when Doc subbed him in real quick.
So I mean,
he was not really involved, but
that makes good sense. You talk about a game where you didn't want to drop this one because you don't want to lose 4 in a row. So it is kind of not a must-win game, but a game you definitely want to try and go out there and win. You had all 4 of the 5 starters up over 33 minutes in this game. D'Anthony Melton up over 33 minutes. So yeah, I think this is actually that's a great call out, Dylan. That this is a great glimpse into what this postseason lineup is really going to look like. I think you may see Daniel House mixed in there if George Niang is struggling. I think that's the key thing. George Niang has to be struggling. Obviously, in this game he wasn't, so there's no need for House. And yeah, I wouldn't want to see really any of these other guys touch the floor in the postseason. Shake is the only one, and I agree with the decision to not play him in this one, given how the game went. So yeah, I think that's a great call out, man.
I think the last thing that I really took away from this game before we move on to this Toronto game tonight is the fact that, dude, Dallas hit 18 threes again. They shot almost 40% from the 3-point line against us. Yeah. They shot a slightly worse field goal percentage from the floor than the Sixers, both right around 46%. The biggest thing is you kept the duo in check.
Yep.
Luka Doncic, 24 points on 9 of 20 shooting. Kyrie Irving came out, had 11 points in the first couple minutes. He seemed like he was going to be a problem. 23 points on 8 of 17 shooting. And the bottom line, whether this was to the fault of the Mavericks, if they're self-imploding with all the drama and all the pressure and all that stuff, all the court stuff, or you give credit to the Sixers defense, in the fourth quarter, Luka and Kyrie, I believe, combined for only 5 shots in a close game in which they led going into the fourth quarter. 5 combined shots from their 2 stars who crushed the Sixers in Dallas a few short weeks ago. So that whether, that was on Dallas's end, and it was a fault of their own, a combination of both. But the Sixers defense really locked down in the second half. I'll tell you one thing: George Niang, you mentioned the 3-point shooting, played a hell of a game.
Yeah,
he had a steal. He had about 4 or 5 rebounds, I believe. He had 2 deflections that went the other way. He was gritty, dude.
Yeah, 2 assists in that game as well. 4 for 7 from the 3-point. Yeah, that was a great example of what George Niang is when he's at the top of his game. But no, I thought you called out something very important there, and I think it's a trend we've seen over, especially after the All-Star break, is the Sixers might start slow sometimes, right? And they might start sloppy. They'll turn the ball over a good bit when they're off their game, right, to start a game. You'll even see some lackadaisical defense, late rotations on defense, but there's like a switch that they hit when they're in these games, especially against teams that are considered top-tier teams with stars on the other end. They hit a switch in these second halves defensively where it looks like the Mavericks, they couldn't buy a shot, right? Like they couldn't pay for an open shot in that second half, especially that fourth quarter. They were forcing the ball into guys like Powell and THJ, Tim Hardaway Jr., which
he had 21 points.
Game. He had a decent game, but 10 3-pointers.
Reggie Bullock is chucking up.
Randy Bullock chucking up threes. And that shows you a little bit of what Dallas is, but also a little bit of what Philly can turn you into.
Sure.
So to your point, just being able to shut those 2 stars down speaks to what they may be able to do against a team like the Cleveland Cavaliers, for instance, in the playoffs with 2 all-star, level guards. So it's nice to see that like switch that they can implement and just turn it on the defensive end and start locking things down. And that's what they should be able to do. They're a top 5 defensive unit in the NBA, so they should be able to do that. It's just good that we're seeing it this late in the season.
I'm with you, man. With that said, let's get into – you don't want that problem. That is my personal favorite matchup for the 76ers. In the
it's the best matchup.
I would rather play this Brooklyn Nets team than the New York Knicks, than the Miami Heat, then throw me another name at the back of then the Atlanta Hawks. I don't care. Toronto. I do not care. I'd rather play this Nets team.
I would rather play the Nets than the Toronto Raptors. Yeah, absolutely, man. And that says a lot considering the Raptors are like the 9 seed right now.
Yeah.
Nets, I mean, when you get to the postseason, it's about star power to an extent. And obviously they have Mikal Bridges. They have a couple guys there that can do their thing, but just nobody that's
– Hey, man, listen, I like Mikal Bridges. One of the worst draft night trades in NBA history. But Mikal Bridges and the word star do not correlate. They don't belong in the same sentence.
He's a great role player. He is a great role player. Yeah, it's my boy, bro.
There you go.
Come up and watch his squad lose. I'll be happy to partake.
He'll oblige. Yeah. But listen, man, let's get into this matchup versus those Toronto Raptors that you just brought up as the 9 seed. They are 30-38 on the season, as we know, with that victory over the Mavericks. The Sixers are at the 50 win mark yet again.
Yes, sir.
This one's kind of simple to me, man. Like you said, we were talking pregame. That's why we were a little late to the start time for the show. We apologize, but we were getting ready for the show, and Toronto has a bunch of dudes. They have a bunch of guys that are so similar in style that, like, OG, I said this to you pre-show, OG Anunoby and Scotty Barnes are the same person to me. Like they legitimately feel like the same person. Siakam is a very, very good player. He is a 20-plus point per game scorer. Can stretch the floor, right? Can finish around the rim. Physical. We know that. What does he do great? What is he great at? And it feels like he's never taken that step. Fred VanVleet used to be semi-scary to me, from beyond a point. He's so off and on shooting wise. Gary Trent Jr. can give you 20 on any given night. He's off and on shooting wise. They have a lot of guys that don't do anything great, that all play a very similar style of basketball at those positions separately. So tonight, what I'm looking at, Scotty, I am looking at 3 things, and I'll run these by you and see what you got, okay? Number 1, controlling the offensive glass or limiting second chances for the Toronto Raptors. The one thing that this team does well, they are second in offensive rebounds per game. They average almost 13 offensive rebounds per game. Do not let, again, a lesser talented team have extra chances and hang around in the game with you. We do know this to be the Achilles heel of the Philadelphia 76ers at times. So, no Tobias Harris tonight. I'm looking at the center. You are 7'2". Joel Embiid can be a little lackadaisical on the glass at times. He needs to step up on the glass. PJ Tucker and the guards need to crash the glass. James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, D'Anthony Melton. Everybody needs to crash the glass tonight and keep Toronto off the offensive boards, right? That's number one. Number two, make life difficult for Toronto. They do. You know how I said they don't do anything really well? They don't do anything great. Guess what they definitely do not do great, Scotty? Shoot the basketball. They are 23rd in points per game, 26th in field goal percentage, 28th in three-point field goal percentage, 17th in free throw percentage, 27th in true shooting percentage, 28th in effective field goal percentage. They do not shoot the ball well.
Make life ugly basketball.
Yeah. Make life difficult for Toronto tonight. That is the bottom line, right? Yeah. And number three, we all know what's surrounding the Sixers team and the big fellow, right? The MVP odds, the MVP movement. Jokic misses a game. Giannis gets blown out at home versus the 2-seed Boston Celtics last night by 40, right? This is a Joel Embiid masterclass written all over tonight. My third key, feed the big fella and let him work. Siakam ain't guarding him. Chris Boucher ain't guarding him. They have one other dude on their bench that definitely ain't guarding them.
Precious.
Is that who Precious Achua ain't guarding him. Nobody's guarding him on this Toronto team. They couldn't guard him with a broken damn face last year, okay? Feed the big fella, control the offensive glass, and make life difficult on the offensive end for the Toronto Raptors tonight are my three keys.
I love them. And a lot of my three keys here kind of line up with yours directly in a sense. So the first one for me tonight, and I wanted to say about Embiid, yeah, you're exactly right. You're spot on with that. The blood is in the water for him. He smells it, and he's gonna pounce tonight. And throughout the rest of this regular season, God willing, his body and health, right, making sure he's right for the playoffs. But he's gonna pounce like no other. But first key to victory here, it's gonna be patience for me tonight, and it starts on the offensive end specifically. You got to be patient. It's got to be one of those masterclass Embiid games where, you know, if they're going to come over triple team them, you got to be willing to dish that off to the open guy, even if they get it right back to you in a better position. But Embiid specifically needs to be patient tonight. We know the Raptors like to throw a lot of different looks at him. They're going to throw a lot of different looks at Harden. They're going to throw a lot of different looks at Maxey as well. And I liked your point when you said about Fred VanVleet. He used to kill us, and he still does from time to time, right? But I feel like Maxey is like that equalizer with Fred VanVleet where, like, you have to guard him. So you're not going to get to sit back and just shoot threes against us.
He's not consistent enough on the offensive end anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's because he's having to give that effort out on the defensive end to guard Maxey in these cases. But nonetheless, Embiid, patience specifically. And then along with that, just staying competitive in the turnover battle. We discussed it before the show. This is one of the better teams when it comes to turnover differential. So they don't turn the ball over a lot. They get a lot of turnovers. They get a lot of steals. So being competitive in the turnover battle, which goes along with patience, it goes along with focus, and being mentally prepared to come in here tonight for a battle. This is one of the better top 5 defensive units in the NBA. You mentioned their shooting woes. That means they have to be good on defense, right, in order to be a decent team and be where they're at right now. My final key to victory here, once again, goes along with yours as well. Protect the paint, and that goes along with just making it as hard as possible on the Toronto Raptors, but also feeding Embiid, right? That's part of protecting the paint and dominating the paint, making the paint yours, is doing it on the offensive end as well. I want to see Embiid get down in there, get physical tonight. One of those overbearing, dominating type of performances I'm expecting from Embiid tonight. So it all kind of feeds into Embiid because of where he's at right now and the opportunity that he has. But that's just the way this team works, right? It's Harden, it's Embiid. They run the offense. Embiid's that anchor on defense. And tonight it's going to be all about him, man. He's got to protect that paint, make things as hard as possible in the Raptors, and then on the other side, protecting that basketball is going to be key. Can't give them easy buckets. It all falls in line there.
Well, speaking of Mr. Joel Hans Embiid, he is a major part of our night, Scotty. Let's get into our favorite segment of the show. That is the best bets segment here. Sixers, Raptors. Starting off at number one at the top of our screen, we have the Sixers spread. We have them, I believe it was -5 when I made the sheet. If it has moved, I apologize. If it's moved down to 4.5, even better for you. Catch it at a better number. But I like the Sixers, and you like the Sixers to cover the spread at home tonight. Somewhat of a statement. No, you not just for Joel Embiid and his MVP case, but for the 76ers. You're coming off of a big win, but you were on the road for a while. You were on the road versus some very, very tough high-end Western Conference teams, and you lost 3 straight. You were banged up, you were injured. That one win against Dallas, that doesn't fulfill them. That does not make them full, right? They're still hungry for more, and they're going to go out and they're going to dominate the Toronto Raptors on their home floor tonight. Sixers -5 is the best one. Number 2, Tyrese Maxey over 2.5 threes. The volume is there. The kid is shooting 6, 7, 8 plus attempts per night. Love him on the home floor. And he feels like he is becoming more comfortable playing between the two stars and knowing when to turn it up and when to kind of simmer down. And he's not shy. So I like Maxey, especially if Shake Milton kind of finds himself out of the rotation, more ball handling duties for Maxey when Harden's out. I like Maxey over 2.5 threes tonight, as does Scotty. And this one plus juice. If it is still, it was when I made the sheet, like I said, plus juice. Obviously the number's up 2 points. So this is telling you all you need to know. Joel Embiid over 33.5 points. So 34 plus points for the big fella today at plus 100 on DraftKings Sportsbook. It's going to be a masterclass. If I had to guess, I said it on Twitter earlier, 38-12 is kind of where my mind goes. Don't be surprised if this is a 40 burger from 21 tonight.
Yeah, I think the sports books might have forgotten or something that Embiid averages 35 a game. So, if I see the number anywhere close to that, any game that Embiid's playing in, let alone a team that you're looking at the bottom of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, this is a team. Who knows? You never know. You might end up playing the Raptors in the first round. You just never know where all these teams are going to end up. So I think even more of a reason to come out, get a statement win. Like you said, cover the spread, take care of business at home. Embiid's going to do his thing. Anytime you see the line at that, I would advise anybody to smash that. And then the Maxey 2.5 threes, man. Like you said, the volume's there, and I think I love it even more when Harden's in the game. It's almost like his odds get more favorable when Harden's in the game because I guess they assume that Maxey's not going to shoot as many threes. I feel like he gets – I would have to look up the splits on this, of course. I feel like he takes way more threes when Harden is playing in the game with him, able to get him those open.
Sure. I mean, look at the assist totals, right? Like that tells you all you need to know. Yeah. Will, the Lord would want you to cash these tickets tonight.
The Lord's going to shine down upon you for this.
The Lord is with you tonight, and the Lord is with the 76ers tonight.
Look, Scotty, I wanted to look at this comment really quick because I thought Pastor Rems was being really funny here. The well-coached Nets. Okay, they're well-coached. That's fair. Vaughn has coached them up. The Raptors are well-coached, too. That's the epitome of the Raptors, bro. Like, so I just wanted to address that, Pastor Rems. But God willing, man, if the Nets can take down whoever they need to, well, it's not – they'll play the Sixers, so no, they won't. Nonetheless, I digress.
Let me walk that statement right back.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, before we get to our predictions here and get off for the night, player of the game, man. Listen, sometimes we like to go different. Sometimes we like to stray away from the stars. I'm not doing so tonight, but I'm not going where you think I'm going with this statement. I'm going with the beard tonight. I'm going with James. Are you going? You're going with the beard?
I'm going with beard too.
I look at this matchup, and you know what stood out to me? It solidified my pick. Do you know why? You mentioned Fred VanVleet, and you mentioned Maxey being the neutralizer, right? Having to guard him. This is an ideal matchup for James Harden tonight. Yeah. Who guards James Harden? If the Raptors are fully healthy, I saw Gary Trent Jr. might be a game time decision. I'm not sure. But Fred VanVleet has to take one of him or Maxey.
Right.
To me, he's a little too small for Harden.
Yeah.
Gary Trent Jr., if he takes Maxey, Gary Trent Jr. definitely ain't guarding James. Then what do you do? Like, do you put an oversized Scotty or OG on Harden.
Yeah, that's what they're going to have to do ultimately. I don't know, OG or Scott. I'd probably go with OG. He's a little bit more. I don't know. Scotty's pretty athletic, but either way, I don't see either of them being able to guard Harden and his bag. So yeah, I'm with you. Harden's my player of the game as well.
All right, very, very great minds think alike,
Embiid's gonna dominate. Embiid's gonna have the most points for sure tonight, but Harden is gonna be that guy that kind of separates these two teams.
Scotty, do the Sixers come away with their second straight win tonight?
I do have the Sixers coming away with their second straight win. They're at home. This is a team that they are supposed to be better than, supposed to take care of business against. They're fairly healthy, even if Tobias doesn't play. If he needs to get some rest, get some rest. I'm still very confident in this Sixers team, even without Tobias in the mix here. I got the Sixers winning 112-101. I do think it could be, a closer game throughout the first three quarters. I think it's one of those games where the Sixers separate themselves towards the end once again. Ultimately, around the 112 mark, that's around their season average. Toronto Raptors only give up 111 points a game. They're the fourth best defensive team metrically in the NBA right now. So they're going to play some decent defense. They're going to show some good looks on the defensive end, but I think the Sixers are going to be too much. And, we're getting closer to the postseason. There's no reason to not take this serious.
Yeah, this is fine-tuning time, man. This is when you want to get your rotations right. You want to get everything correct on the floor right now tonight. Obviously, no Tobias Harris. There's a wrinkle in that. You'd imagine – I know you said even with Harden back, you want DeAnthony coming – or with Harden off the floor, you want DeAnthony coming off the bench because he plays better. Probably going three-guard lineup tonight with Tobias Harris.
Yeah.
With that said – I look for the Sixers to come away with a win just like you do. I don't think this is a blowout by any stretch. I think the Toronto Raptors are well coached. They play good defense. Like you said, they're going to be scrappy. I do think those guys that we said are a bunch of dudes will hit some outside perimeter shots tonight at times. I think this is playoff-esque type of basketball. No, I'm not predicting 98-92, but I do think you could see a 104-99, a 106-100 type of performance, low 100s tonight. I don't know what the over-under was set at, but if I had to take a guess, I had to take a stab, I'm going to say the under. Let me check real quick.
The most recent matchup between these two teams was December, so take it with a grain of salt, 104-101 in overtime. So
the total is 223. I'd like the under in this game by a decent amount.
Yeah. Even with my score, you would still take the under there. So I agree.
No, I'm with you, man, guys. That is going to wrap up this edition of DSM Pregame Live Sixers Raptors preview. Like I said in the beginning, if you're new to the channel, make sure to check us out on Twitter first at DSM_media. Hit that follow button to stay in tune with all of our daily content. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. It's the best spot to catch these pregame shows and get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up on the screen with us. TBD if there will be a Phillies pregame show tomorrow on a Saturday, but I will be back on the YouTube channel Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon for a Phillies Game 2 recap versus the Rangers. And then Scotty, myself, and potentially George Ryder here at DSM will be getting together for a dual pregame show. Sixers versus Bucks, Phillies Sunday Night Baseball against the Texas Rangers. So we'll be doing them together as one big show, and we'll have some fun with it around 6 p.m., maybe a little earlier to give us some more wiggle room on Sunday night. So stay tuned for that at DSM_media on Twitter. For myself, for Scotty, have a great rest of your night.
Go Sixers.
And Philadelphia has it.